Hello, everyone. Welcome to this special live edition of Demo Divas. My name is Kylie. I'm joined today by Haley. Haley, how are you?
I am so great. How are you?
I'm so good. This weekend has been super hectic, but we have a lot to talk about. So let's address, of course, the big news coming out of WrestleMania Night 1. Bianca Belair, she defeated Becky Lynch finally, and she's the she's the new Raw Women's Champion. What are your thoughts about this match? I thought this was one of the best women's matches I've ever seen in WWE. I think this was probably Bianca's best showing. Her gear was amazing, of course, and I'm so just relieved to see her crowned.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the best women's matches that I've seen in a while. I think that both of these women, this started at SummerSlam and it's really culminated until now. And I think that there was just so much story to be had. And just there was a lot of emotion behind this match. So I was so happy with the results. And Bianca looked like a star. Her entrance was incredible. I'm so glad that they gave that to her and they did that. But yeah, I just thought it was great. I'm so happy for her. We're
I'm
on
so
cloud
happy.
nine. We love Bianca so much.
We do. I think that's old lore with us. How much we love Bianca. I'll admit though, I was a little worried that WWE was going to have Becky retain and do Becky Ronda again, but we'll talk about it later. I'm not sure we have to worry about that anymore. But I think Bianca's the future of this division, and I think as time goes on, WWE really has to start making other stars and stop relying on the four horsewomen. And Charlotte did retain, but I think we have Bianca, and there's definitely some great prospects in NXT, and it's just a great relief. And maybe that's me, maybe that's wrong of me to be relieved so soon, but what a match it was. What did you think about the finish? I thought the finish was very innovative, and I thought the crowd was super into it. It was so cool to see everyone get on their feet for Bianca.
I agree. I think the placement of this match I really liked as well because the crowd, I feel like at the beginning of the show was a little dead. So I feel like they really needed to amp the crowd back up. And what better way than to have the women do it? Match of the night for me.
And for all the criticism that WWE gets for its women's division, and a lot of it is, rightly deserved. We've talked about it on the show a ton. I think the women, with the exception of, of course, Cody's debut and of course Stone Cold Steve Austin, I think from a wrestling standpoint in the ring, I think Becky and Bianca were untouchable on this card. I don't think anyone came close. And that's not a knock on the men, but it's just when you have women in WWE who are so talented, who can be stars, I just don't. And of course, Stone Cold Steve Austin, I have my own feelings on whether or not he should have main evented, but that's for another show. I do think Becky and Bianca, maybe next year main event, we need to get the women back in the main event.
I agree. Becky was always one of my favorite horsewomen. And so I feel like ushering in, Bianca this way. I mean, we had Sasha last year, but I think that having her kind of go after the horsewomen, I really like that. And this year, I appreciated, like, after she won the title, like, it wasn't like an, oh my god, like, she knew that she is that bitch,
The confidence was incredible.
Yes.
And I just love Bianca. I love everything about her. We need to do this with more women, though. We need to get more people in a position where they could credibly beat, Charlotte, or they could credibly beat Sasha. And fingers crossed we get there. I think this is definitely a good sign, though. And the fact that the crowd was so into it, she definitely has the support. So fingers crossed. But then we had another women's match on this card for WrestleMania Night 1. And I have a lot of thoughts about this match. But of course, Charlotte Flair retains her title against Ronda Rousey. Haley, I'm really curious. What did you think about this match?
So I didn't understand why it was happening at first. Like when she first won the Rumble, I was like, oh, like how are they going to do this? Because she has so much story with Becky. And I was like, but if they're doing Bianca and Becky, like, how does this make sense? So I feel like it was kind of thrown together a little bit, and like maybe that's why I haven't been as invested in the story or really the match. I think overall it was all right. You know, Charlotte always shows out. She's incredible in the ring, and as an athlete. Ronda is as well. I think she really held her own, which I wasn't like surprised, but you know.
Listen, this was not my favorite match, and I was tweeting about this. I thought it was slow and I thought it was sloppy, and that's not a knock on Charlotte or Ronda, because I think on their own they're both incredible, but I just think the Charlotte-Ronda dynamic doesn't work. And when I'm watching the match and I'm not interested in it, and we're at WrestleMania and it's for a women's title, I feel like that's a major problem. And I didn't like that there was no fluidity to the match. There was a unnecessarily long like third act of the match where we should have just ended it because the crowd wasn't into it either. I didn't enjoy that I could hear Charlotte calling spots in the match. And, Ronda Rousey's denied the reports that she was upset she wasn't main event. But there were reports that she was upset she wasn't in the main event because Stone Cold Steve Austin, of course, main evented. And I do think Ronda Rousey should have won. I think she should have won the title. I think Charlotte is at a point, and maybe this is just my perception of Charlotte, we're at a point where she needs something. She needs something that will refresh her character, will make people more interested again. Because when you have on the other side, you have Becky and Bianca, who people are super interested in. For all my criticism of Becky, people do enjoy her and they are interested in that version of her character. But when you have that, and then you have Charlotte and Ronda, and people are very disinterested, and we have two brands that are clearly at different places with their women's division, I think that's a major problem that needs to be addressed.
Well, and two, a lot of WrestleMania to me, but especially this match, and I know we talked about this, we were texting about it when we were watching the show, but it felt like just things that you would see on TV. Like, it didn't feel like the main event, like Mania caliber that we're used to, And I personally, so this was what I thought was going to happen, and I didn't want to like jinx anything. I was like, I'm not even going to put that bad juju out there for Bianca right now because I need her to win. So I thought it was going to be Ronda wins the title and they weren't going to have Bianca do it, because I was like, if they're having both women's matches on the same night, I doubt that both titles will change hands. So I thought that they were going, because they have Backlash coming up, I thought that they were going to have her win the title at Backlash, which would have been not great. But now I think that's what they may do with Ronda, if this continues.
I could definitely see that happening.
Because I feel like they wanted to give, I know there were some stories that this wasn't the original plan for Mania. So I think that they did want to give Bianca her moment, and they didn't want to overshadow it with both titles changing hands. So maybe that'll happen.
When I was watching Charlotte Ronda, it felt like to me, Bianca and Ronda being crowned the new champions, that was a significant passing of the torch moment. And it was also the culmination of both of their stories. Like, as much as we talk about Bianca had to beat Becky because of happened at SummerSlam, and she's been working this whole time to get to that point of beating Becky, we could say the same about Ronda. Before her return, her last match in WWE, she was, I guess, unrightfully pinned. She unjustly lost the match. And then she went off, she had a baby, which no one should judge her for that. Congratulations. And she comes back and she doesn't win at WrestleMania. Like, she doesn't get that redemption. And I'm not the biggest Ronda Rousey fan.
And she was the Rumble winner.
Yeah. And I'm not the biggest Ronda Rousey fan, and I don't want it to come across that I'm, letting her slide on things. But I do think that this is a significant dropping the ball moment. Like, that's the culmination of her story, is beating Charlotte and winning a match at WrestleMania and being champion. Just the same way it was for Bianca. The situations are completely different. Bianca, she's a babyface. People love her. She's a rising star. People are less behind Ronda, probably because they don't enjoy her as a babyface. Maybe they want her to be mean. And maybe this is the moment where she does turn heel and we see her, being Ronda Rousey. But I don't know. Then this match, I felt like they weren't into it. And that made me not into it.
Yes.
And there was a lot of unnecessary stuff. Like there's a ref bump. And there's like, we're in the ring, we're out of the ring, we're back in the ring. It was just not for me.
It wasn't for me either. And as much as I love that we had multiple women's matches in one night, I just think that maybe it could have been spaced out better. Like the card could have been reworked a little differently.
Yeah, I don't think it helped that they had to follow Cody.
At all.
No. I think...
And I think that having Cody right after Bianca winning maybe wasn't my favorite either. But
so would you have had Bianca open then?
Yeah. I thought that they were going to. I would have preferred that, honestly.
I would have preferred, I think the opening spot, especially in, the last few years, fans have realized that that's a significant spot. And that to me, that's just as big an honor as the main event. Yeah. And, with Stone Cold Steve Austin, it ended up being a match. So I can see why that was main event, because it's Stone Cold Steve Austin. He hasn't wrestled in like 20 years. Of course, he's going to main event, especially against Kevin Owens, and it's no hold barred and all that stuff. If Becky and Bianca weren't going to main event, I think they should have opened. They put him smack in the middle of the card, which I was into the match, but it felt like a lot of other people maybe weren't as into it as they would have been if it had been, hot start to the show. Because the matches at the beginning of the show were not my favorite, especially, Rick Boogs, I hope he gets better soon. But that injury derailed that match. And then Logan Paul... credit to him.
He did do a good job. Yeah. In his first match. Like, I mean, he wasn't horrible, but
it's like that match still wasn't that great. No. And so the rest of it's like you said, it's all about spacing, and Charlotte Ronda to me killed it. Like they just ruined the entire vibe that we had going, because we had Bianca and Cody in the smack of the middle of the show, and it was great. And then Charlotte Ronda were just kind of there, like stuck between two, big moments.
Yeah, and there was no like wave to ride. Like it was literally just Bianca, Cody, and then straight down. Like
and it came out that they cut the New Day versus Sheamus and Ridge Holland match. That could have been between Cody and Charlotte Ronda. Charlotte Ronda didn't need to go that long. It really didn't. It was unnecessarily long, and it was boring because of that. So take some of that time, give it to the New Day, who, are entertaining, but they're not going to, tire out the crowd. And then the women would get more attention. Exactly. But I think their place on the card really worked to hurt them.
Yeah, everybody was exhausted.
Yeah. So on WrestleMania Night 2, we have the women's tag title match. How are you feeling about that?
I think that the tag division is severely lacking, and I know we talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
I do hope that Sasha and Naomi win here. I think that, having these two ladies on the card, especially Sasha, we can't have them in a match and not have them win at Mania. So I really hope that they take the titles and they can help elevate the sort of non-existent tag division. Hopefully that changes though.
Yeah, so for the women's tag team championship, we have Queen Zelina and Carmella, of course, versus Sasha Banks and Naomi, versus Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, versus Natalya and Shayna Baszler. So if it's not Sasha, and I don't see Zelina and Carmella retaining. If they do, that's a wasted opportunity, in my opinion. Sasha and Naomi, people like them, and I think they're craving something for Naomi, something big. It's Sasha, she's always going to be in that spot, in a top spot. It's expected. As much as we love her for it, it's expected. But Naomi never gets things like that. She never gets to be at Sasha Banks' level, as much as I think she deserves to be.
She does.
Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan is an interesting pairing. It's not really working for me. I know people are enjoying it. But this match has to go to Sasha and Naomi. I think it's going to be a good match. I think people are underestimating it, to be honest. But what's your opinion on Rhea and Liv?
I love Rhea and Liv as individuals. I don't know how I feel about them as a tag team, and I guess it's kind of the same for Sasha and Naomi, to be honest with you. I think that all four of them, you know, are meant for singles titles. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that they need to be paired up in tag teams.
Yeah, I definitely think, like you said, the tag team division is kind of lacking. And it's the same story for NXT, which stand and deliver. If you follow my Twitter, you know that was not a good show for me.
We were too busy watching some collective shows instead. So
yeah, I looked at the card and I said, you know what, the collective is for me. So that's what I did. But I went back and I watched some of NXT. Don't worry. It's the same story in NXT with the women's tag division. There's no substance to it. And the fact that you have women's titles that mean so little, it hurts the division as a whole because they keep pushing women into that division. And these are single stars that are becoming tag champions like Zelina and Carmella, who, shouldn't be in the tag division. Natalya and Shayna Baszler. Oh, Shayna Baszler, what a dropping the ball moment if we're going to talk about
what
that.
What are they doing? I mean, I think that honestly at this point, if you're just going to keep making the tag titles and the tag division look like a joke, you need to just get rid of them completely and introduce the mid-card title.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be opposed to that because, in AEW, there's the Women's World Championship and then the TBS title. And I think the TBS title has been a major boost to the division. I really do. Because now it's not like everyone's competing for one title. It's like we could have people working for a title, but we don't necessarily have to have everyone in the world title picture. And I think WWE could really benefit from something like that just because the tag division seems like they're using it as a mid-card title or a way to start feuds and all those sort of things. And I have no doubt that these women are going to have a great match at WrestleMania. I don't want, I don't want people to think that I'm, unjustly crapping on them, but I think this is a poor lapse in judgment for WWE to have the Raw women's title and the SmackDown women's title defended on night 1, and then this is just stuck on night 2. It's just poorly designed. If they had moved Charlotte and Ronda to night 2, I think they would have gotten more. I think they would have gotten more time, more attention, and I think the match would have been received better. Even if we had the same exact match, I think it would have been received better. It's just they were stuck between Cody and Stone Cold Steve Austin. How do you compete with that?
You can't.
You can't.
And then when you have to follow the best women's match of the night, and honestly, of this year, maybe, in my opinion, one of the best.
I would definitely say this year. I would say Becky Bianca is definitely up there with the greatest WWE women's matches, maybe ever. I think
the bar is so low.
To be fair, Haley, until recent years, we have a lot of material to work with.
You're right, yeah.
And they're just so talented. I think that was a definite success for WWE. Ronda Charlotte was a definite failure. I'm looking forward to the tag title match. I'm not entirely convinced it's going to be good, though.
I think all the women are going to show out, but I don't know.
So overall, I would say WrestleMania was it was not for the women.
It was like this for me.
Yeah.
Like I'm stuck in the middle.
Yeah, and of course, I'll make your final judgment after tonight with the women's tag title match, because that could be a classic. I have no idea. But as of right now, I'm kind of like, they could have done so much more it's WrestleMania. And I feel like I'm watching SmackDown.
Yeah. It does. It feels like TV. Not Mania.
Which was not for me. But this weekend, we also got a lot of amazing shows. And I know we were going to touch on Toni Storm first. But you brought up Effie's Big Gay Brunch. And that got me thinking about this weekend and all the incredible women's wrestling we saw at the Collective and, other indie shows around it. And we have to talk about Allie Katch versus Mickie James. And I know you love this match. And I said this on Twitter earlier. Someone asked, what was your favorite moment of the weekend? And my favorite moment of the weekend was Allie Katch getting on the mic with her soft voice, she never talks, yelling at fans who were booing Mickie James. And that really touched my heart. and I love that match. Haley, the floor is yours. Tell us about the match.
Listen, I love both of these women. I was so excited when I found out that they were going to bring Mickie James into GCW because that's such a wild card. But I think that this match really worked. They both showed out. Mickie looked incredible in her gear. Allie was serving. She looked amazing.
Yeah.
But she always does great in the ring. I'm not surprised. But Mickie was taking some hard spots. Yeah.
People forget how talented Mickie James is because she has this stigma of being like, the mid-card stable girl in WWE. And now that she's out of WWE, we're seeing a lot from her that I would not have expected. But I'm here for it. I love Mickie James. I think she's a pioneer for women's wrestling, and she never gets credit for it.
Well, even her match at the beginning of this year in Impact, that was amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like people, like you said, they really underestimate her. And even like the promos that we saw, like Allie kind of like spoofing the whole like Mickie Trish. I love that. Yeah. And then we got callbacks to some Mickie Trish moments as well in the match itself, which was I loved so much.
Yeah, I think Allie Katch is so good in the ring. And I'm not sure why when people talk about, best North American women's wrestlers, they don't bring up Allie Katch. They always jump to, the Charlotte Flairs and the Britt Bakers of the world. But if you watch GCW or if you watch the indies in general, because she's everywhere, she's incredible in the ring. She brings something so unique. She's so brutal and she brawls and she's technical and she's, all these facets of her character. And I cannot say enough good things about her, but this also brings up another issue with GCW. And if you know me, I'm a GCW fan. I love GCW. I watch it all the time. Haley too. We're major fans. But there's no women's division in this promotion. And, people will say, oh, they book women. They book Allie Katch all the time. She's at like every GCW show. But she's wrestling an intergender match. And, I love my intergender matches. Allie Katch versus Toni Deppen was incredible. But at the same time, it's where's the women's representation? And at Allie Katch versus Mickie James, it was at Joey Janela Spring Break
Part 1.
6.
Yeah, 6.
She said during that same promo, she said this was the first women's match at Spring Break. And, Spring Break is kind of an offshoot of GCW. It's part of the collective, but it's still GCW. And the fact that there hasn't been a women's match there is kind of an issue because it's related to the other long-standing issues in GCW.
Well, and I feel like they rely on Allie a lot to pull off these bigger matches and these bigger moments. And I'm not trying to discredit Allie. She can hang with the best of them, whether it's men, women, it doesn't matter. But I do think that there's a lot of pressure there for her to, put on these amazing matches all the time and always be the best and always be on. And I don't think that's fair to her. They have so much talent that they circulate in and out of GCW all the time. So many talented women that I wish they could use them the same way that they use Allie.
Yeah, and I think, Allie's always put in a position where she is a staple of GCW. And they really sort of push that because the fans of GCW do love Allie Katch.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, they do bring in other women like Janai Kai. Why isn't she in GCW more? And it's not like the women's indie scene is lacking. I think the women's indie scene is the strongest it's been since, NXT first went to TV and they were just getting everybody. I think this is the strongest it's been in a long time. And they've brought in AEW talent. They had, Ruby Soho. They had Thunder Rosa. But it's like, it's not a priority for them, it seems like. It's like they're not committed to women's wrestling. And if that's the case, if you don't want to have a women's division, that's fine. But I feel like we're at a point where it's becoming an issue where we're having first women's matches the 6th year that you're running the show. And, I don't hate Spring Break. I love Joey Janela Spring Break. I look forward to it.
Yeah,
but
it's one of the best shows at the Collective.
But it goes back to a larger issue of, diversity. Like, you look at Effie's Big Gay Brunch, and it's so diverse. And, we were we were texting each other during that show. And there's just so much representation. But it's not the same, Effie's Big Gay Brunch doesn't draw sort of the crowd that Joey Janela Spring Break draws, because he's Joey Janela, and people go because they want to see, crazy stuff, which is fair. Go see what you want to see. But why can't we have that sort of representation in a normal GCW show? Like, I went to GCW Astronaut in Atlanta a few weeks back, and it was Alley Catch versus Jordan Grace, and that was the that was the hottest the crowd was the entire night, until we got to the main event, and it was hardcore match, and there's light tube spots and tables, but as far as like normal in-ring wrestling, that was the hottest the crowd had been. So certainly there's people are into women's wrestling, and we're reaching a peak in women's wrestling, and I just wish GCW would get on board with that.
Yeah, and they had a ton of other like intergender matches, and they had Mission Pro as well.
Yes.
This weekend, but
Mission Pro if you're watching this, go watch Mission Pro. That was a show. That was a variety show, top to bottom. You'll find something that you like, and go watch everything Mission Pro, first of all. Yeah. But I think one of the great things about Mission Pro is that it is, focused on women, but it's also focused on, building female wrestlers. So over time, if you get into Mission Pro, you'll see the same women come up, and you see them get better and better and better. And I think that's just the best part about watching Mission Pro Wrestling. Of course, they called her the matriarch of Mission Pro, Thunder Rosa. She's doing incredible things there. And, they had Kylan King was there. Rosa Negra was there. Thunder Rosa was there. So but at the same time, that's like a women's promotion. And I do enjoy Stardom and, these Joshi promotions, but I do also like to see women get opportunities on bigger stages, because it's so hard to build a women's promotion that could rival a mainstream promotion like GCW, like an AEW, like a WWE. And Stardom has done amazing things, and I think by far and large, they're the most successful women's promotion in the world. But I don't think it's too much to ask that people who, have the big promotions and make the most money book women in those spots.
Well, I was just going to give a shout out to Kylan King. She did amazing at Mission Pro, but the night before, she had an incredible match at No Peace Underground. She was taking gusset plates to the head, like insane stuff. I'll have to send you some of the videos. My boyfriend was there, so he got me some great footage of that. But just incredible stuff. And Sawyer Wreck as well, her match with Brandon Kirk was one of my favorite matches at Planet Death. Did you see Planet Death?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you
saw Planet Death. Yes.
But that was one of my favorite matches on that card as well. And then, I also need to give another shout out to my queen, Casey Kirk. She had a match at ICW No Holds Barred against Danny Tomato, and she killed it as well. She's really cementing herself in the deathmatch world and as the better Kirk spouse. You didn't hear that from me?
Oh.
I love Casey Kirk. I just had to say that.
Yeah, I think the Collective was really strong for women, with the exception of, a lack of representation on some shows. I think there's something so special about WrestleMania weekend, and I love to see that women are getting bigger spots to compete in that. I haven't seen, all the shows from the Collective or any of the other shows that were running that weekend. I'm going to go back and watch them, of course. But from what I've seen, I think women's wrestling, I think we're in a good spot, especially in the indies. Looking at WrestleMania and Charlotte Ronda, and then looking at the indies, it's night and day.
Night and day. Yeah. Oh, no, that's lit. Love that we have the same brain. Love that. But it's true.
it is true. And clearly there's a demand for women's wrestling. And we saw that this weekend. And I just don't understand why no one's committing to it. And, should we move on to AEW? Because I have thoughts about this.
Yeah, I feel like we should.
Okay. So I don't know. I don't know when the Owen Hart tournament is actually starting, but we're getting qualifying matches. And so on Dynamite, we had the Bunny come out. She's going to have a qualifying match for the Owen Hart tournament. And her mystery opponent, which they've been hyping up for a week, is Toni Storm. And Toni Storm was released from WWE, or she quit WWE and then was released. I don't know the details, but she came out. She looked happy as could be. She was very emotional. Her and the Bunny had a great match. And I said this on Twitter. I was like, you guys don't even know what the Bunny is capable of, because her AEW stuff does not compare to anything she did in Impact. Yeah. And go look it up, because you guys are really underestimating her.
Yeah, we talk about this all the time, but she's a vet. Like, she can hold her own in the ring. Definitely go check it out.
Yeah, and so Toni Storm debuted in AEW, and this is, I think, probably AEW's biggest women's debut, I would say. What do you think?
I would say aside from Ruby, yeah.
Yeah, I would say Ruby's comparable, but it's just we don't get the same amount of big debuts for the women's division as we do for the men's division. It's like, it feels like every month we get a new men's debut, which I'm not opposed to.
Yeah, good on that. But we need to start building up the women's division.
Yeah, the women's division is very small, but they're all very talented, and we can do a lot with them. But we do get a lot more men's debuts, a lot more big men's debuts. So this was very big. It felt like a big moment. I thought the match was good.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Toni Storm in the Owen Hart tournament. Of course, then on Rampage, Jamie Hayter also qualified. I hope we get more debuts in the tournament, just because I don't want the entire women's division to be wrapped up in the tournament. Because for the men's division, they could put like 30 people in there, and they would still have a bunch of men left over for stories. You can't do that with the women's division. It's too small. Unless they, brought in, free agents or something and just had them work the tournament. I don't know. But I think Toni Storm is a major get for them. But I just hope that they don't drop the ball with her.
Yeah, I think at this point, if she is the only debut, I don't think that there's any way that she loses, because I feel like you can't bring her into this tournament and give her this momentum and have her lose the entire thing. I think she's going to win. But again, I really hope they don't drop the ball. We've seen it with Ruby. I know she's on Dark. I know she's wrestling over there. I watch her matches, but I don't know. It just feels like they bring in these women. It's the problem. They bring in these women, and I know they like to circulate their talent. That's good. But then we just don't see them.
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating.
Yeah, it's, someone on Twitter was saying, oh, well, Ruby Soho has the most wins of anybody on the AEW women's roster in 2022, which is true. She does, which congratulations, but like, she's not on TV.
Yeah, like, what are we doing with that? Like, she's building up these wins for what? Like, what is she?
I have to go out of my way to watch Ruby Soho when she should be on my TV all the time, because she's one of the strongest wrestlers in the division. And it's like, where's Serena Deeb? Where's Sheeta? Like, you have all these incredible talents who are complete packages, and they're not getting TV time. And, Thunder Rosa, speaking of Thunder Rosa, she finally gave a promo that was good. And I think she's an underrated promo. And I was so glad the Kid Guerrero didn't come out again, because yikes. But the fact that she just now was able to give that, they just now got that time, and she's still feuding with Nyla Rose, which is a waste of time. But watch our AEW episode of Demo Divas for more about our rant. I don't know. It's like, I'm excited for Toni Storm. And like you said, I do think she'll win the tournament. I'm not sure who else is going to be in it. I just hope that she wins the tournament and they give her a title, or she wins the tournament, maybe doesn't win a title, but she's still relevant. I just don't want this to be like Ruby Soho, who won a title shot, didn't win the title, and then just faded from existence, which seems to be the pattern.
Because they don't know what to do with women that aren't champions.
And it's true. And now we also have Jade Cargill, who is looking for her 30th win against Marina Shafir, who has if you watch Dark and you watch Dark Elevation, you know Marina Shafir. She's been doing a lot. She's getting a lot of promo time, which is a very good sign. I'm not sure if she's all elite yet. I'm not sure if she's signed. I don't think they've said anything.
I don't think so, but that package was very promising.
Yeah, she had an incredible video package on Dynamite,
which they never do.
No one ever. You know what it reminded me of? You remember back in the old AEW days when they had that Wardlow package debut, and he's like walking on a roof with his girlfriend, and these guys like jump him. It reminded me of that. It did. It was like so like Hollywood, like so produced. But I was here for it because I love when women get time to do stuff.
And she deserves that. Marina's incredible.
Yeah, and I don't think she's gonna beat Jade because I think they really, really want the 30-0. And I thought her 30th win would come against someone big. Like I thought maybe a debuting Athena or something along those lines. But Marina Shafir is good. I will take it. I will take anything good at this point from this company. I just hope they have something big down the line for her.
Yeah, I hope that. I know there were reports about AEW not having, they're not rushing to get Athena right now. But I do think that will be, which is ridiculous to me, but I do think that will be Jade's first big feud with her title. I hope.
I hope great. So. I mean, if you're not going to sign Athena to be in the Owen Hart tournament, you can definitely still sign her and put her in a feud with Jade. I just, maybe Jade beats Marina Shafir and then Athena does a surprise debut.
I was seeing things where people were like, they shouldn't be debuting women back to back like this. They have no problem doing it to the men.
Yeah.
Why can't we have Toni and Athena and Marina? Why can't we have this? Why?
At this point, we need it.
Yeah.
We need some excitement in this division.
We do.
And a lot of people say that, at All Out, we literally had Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson debut in the span of 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's just a moot point. And I hate that people are saying, oh, well, the women had 4 segments on Dynamite. We're peak women's division for AEW. And
segments.
And then they had some stuff on Rampage, which, it was what it was. Jamie Hayter won. I do like Jamie Hayter. I think she's a big talent. I'm confused about where Britt Baker is.
Where did she dropped off the face of the earth after losing that title?
Yeah, it's maybe someone who's watching knows, but is something wrong? Is she gone for a reason, or they just don't have anything for Britt Baker?
Well, and I thought that they were doing Jamie and Britt here soon.
That's what I thought.
No.
My thinking now is that maybe the first round of the Owen Hart, it'll be, she'll come out and then they'll be your opponent is Britt Baker, which I don't want them to do because if they leave a vacant spot in the tournament, people are going to expect a debut.
Yeah.
And it would mess up, people want to do predictions and they want to do brackets and all this sort of stuff.
They're going to expect more and it's going to be
Britt Baker. And she's a heel so that they could get away with it, but it is what it is. I was surprised at Ring of Honor. Also this weekend was Supercard of Honor, which I'm a big Ring of Honor fan.
Such a great pay-per-view.
It was the show of the weekend.
It really was. Even if you just had FTR and the Briscoes alone, that kind of topped everything that we've seen.
That was such a good show. Everyone go out of your way to watch it. Yeah. This was a little bit of a weird situation, and I kind of want to get your take on it because we haven't really talked about it outside of the show. So Gianna Purrazzo is the Ring of Honor, Women's World Champion. She signed to Impact though. So at Supercard of Honor, Gianna couldn't be there, I guess, because she was working Impact. they had Mercedes Martinez versus Willow Nightingale for the interim champion, and then whoever won would wrestle Deonna Purrazzo, at a later date, maybe on TV. They have TV tapings coming up. Mercedes Martinez won, so we're going to get Mercedes Martinez versus Deonna Purrazzo, which I'm excited for because I think it'll be great. This whole interim title thing, though, Tony Khan loves to do this, and I'm really interested in your take on it.
He does love to do this, and I absolutely hate it. I don't understand why we can't just do number one contenders. I don't know why he doesn't like that and why he feels like he needs to load up the cards with title matches. Like, I would much rather have a number one contenders match. Like, that would have been more interesting to me. We didn't need to have an interim. Like, they're not interesting to me. I don't care.
I think Mercedes Martinez in Ring of Honor is interesting. Yeah. I would have preferred her to stay with the Brit crew on AEW, though, because I thought that the Mercedes, the Hitman angle was very interesting, and they kind of dropped it. Like, she hasn't been around Thunder Rosa in a long time. She hasn't really been anywhere, and I'm glad she's getting something here, and I do think she'll beat Deonna, just because Deonna's an Impact, and I don't think that'll work.
You just need to juggle both.
Yeah, I did. Some people were saying, though, that Willow had more potential as a champion. She's younger, she's newer, she has a lot more room to grow. But, and this was a criticism with other, title wins on the card. I just think that Mercedes has a name. She has experience. AEW fans know who she is. And I think if they're going to reboot Ring of Honor and have it be successful, especially the women's division, because as we all know, the Women of Honor, the Ring of Honor women's division has kind of been a running meme in the wrestling community. So if they're going to reboot it, I think she's definitely a good choice for champion. Yeah. And the match was okay. It wasn't my favorite. I'm worried about where we go from here, especially with Tony Khan booking.
Yeah, booking both companies.
Yeah.
A little scary.
Both women's divisions.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's the women's divisions because I have faith that he can do everything else. It's just the women's division that I'm very terrified of. And I do like that Mercedes is definitely probably going to take this title off of Deonna. And I think because we don't know what's going to happen yet. We've only gotten a little bit of a taste of what Tony may have planned. So we don't know, who he's got his eye on, who could be signed, who he could bring over from AEW. But I do think that Mercedes can help elevate some of these younger girls and bring them up to world title status.
And it was really interesting, and I thought this was interesting. Samoa Joe debuted at the end of the show, and when they announced that he was signed, he got an all-elite graphic. So it looks like people who are signed to Ring of Honor or are going to be all elite, there's going to be maybe not a shared roster, but maybe,
like an open door policy type thing.
An open door policy, something like that. I don't think there will ever be a full brand split between Ring of Honor and.
Can you imagine? Whoa.
Can you imagine a draft? Dynamite drafts, Mercedes Martinez. I miss those old school drafts where they would announce the draft picks we're in the NFL.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I thought that was incredible. I was yeah, I'm here for this.
Especially because wrestling and WrestleMania stuff is the Super Bowl, so it really just kind of feels like a legit sport, not
you know what, Tony Khan, do it. Have a draft. Why not?
Dynamite draft. There you go.
Put someone in charge of Ring of Honor that's not you, Christopher Daniels or something, and let him draft people. But back to my original point, it does look like there's going to be some kind of shared roster, and I do think that to some extent Ring of Honor will be used for developmental or to get people TV times or reps or whatever. But and I think we talked about this on an earlier episode of Demo Divas. I don't want the women to just be shoved there, and that's. We're one show in, but that's definitely the vibe that I'm getting because Mercedes Martinez, who is one of the best and most experienced wrestlers on the AEW roster, she's going to be champion, of course, but she's on Ring of Honor, which is not going to get Dynamite viewership. No. And so I'm worried for, the Ruby Sohos of the world or the Kiera Hogans of the world who are they're dark staples and they're killing it on dark, but they're not getting anything on Dynamite. And I think it's a valid criticism, and I know people are going to disagree with that, and that's fine. I'm a big Ring of Honor fan, so I'm allowed to critique it. But I thought the match was okay. But I'm worried about booking, and Tony Khan, put someone else in charge of Ring of Honor, for the love of God.
Please.
You cannot do both, Tony.
Kenny, we need you back, like, ASAP.
Kenny Omega. Also, speaking of the AEW Women's Division, give it to Kenny Omega.
Yes.
Why isn't he doing
and then Tony can go worry about Ring of Honor and make it good. That's all I ask.
Yeah, all you have to do is say, Kenny, every Dynamite you have like 30 minutes for the women's division. And Kenny would maximize that time. We would have stories on stories on stories.
We'd get like 3 matches. We would get like 4 segments, like promos, like
those women would be working. And you know what? Kenny would
earning that paycheck as they should.
Kenny would make sure everyone got on screen too. Yes. He'd be like, we're gonna do a massive run-in. And it's like the entire roster.
He really would.
He really would. I'm gonna start a petition. I'm gonna say it's gonna be on change.org.
Not to change.
But I think the general conclusion from this episode, Demo Divas, is that something has to change. Yeah. I feel like we were given a lot of false hope with the women's revolution, and I think we reached a peak when WWE had an all women's pay-per-view, and now all of a sudden we're going way, way, way back down. And I don't want to be in the valley. I want to be at the peak. So, Haley, what are your thoughts on the valley that we're in?
I feel like there was this shift in women's wrestling, really in like 2015. I feel like is when it really started to there was like a little rise.
Yeah,
especially in WWE, things started to shift a little bit, and I feel like that was kind of that. And then in 2018 we started to kind of get it's been like a a slow incline.
Yeah,
we're fastly declining, and I don't like that. I think that there is a lot of potential in these women's divisions across all companies and on the indies, and I hope that these women are given the same chances that are afforded to men, because they deserve it.
Yeah, I definitely think the quality of women's wrestling is just as good as it was a few years ago. I think the booking, though,
that's the issue.
Is a lot worse, and I'm not sure where we go from here. I think having Ring of Honor on a bigger stage is going to be beneficial for women's wrestling if
Tony Khan to AEW.
Yeah, if the opportunity is seized and Tony Khan does good with it. I think WWE with Bianca Belair has a great opportunity. I think if you're not going to have Ronda as champion, I think they could build a star that could dethrone Charlotte. And if they give her the Bianca treatment, I think it'll be good. And also consider if they give Bianca a good title run, which it's only been a day and she's doing fine so far, so it's okay.
She's done anything else since, so.
But that's the general state of women's wrestling right now on WrestleMania weekend. It's been a crazy, hectic weekend. I'm sure there's lots of matches and lots of people that we didn't talk about. So let us know your thoughts on WrestleMania weekend. Haley, where can the people find you? Oh, this way.
You can follow me on Twitter right here. I'm also a writer over at Nerds and Beyond. I write some nerdy stuff and wrestling stuff. Obviously, I'm on Demo Divas, and I have a couple of other projects, but you can just follow me on Twitter to see updates on all of those.
You can follow me on Twitter at Fuller_Kiley. I mostly tweet about wrestling, but I post a lot of hot takes. So you can find me on Demo Divas every Sunday at 5. Normally Jay Shell at Jay Shell Nicole is here with us. We missed her, but she's a very, very busy girl. You can also see me every Monday at 3 p.m. on the Body Slam YouTube channel. I do the Code of Honor podcast with my good friend Kyle. We talk all about Ring of Honor. We review matches. He's a Ring of Honor historian. I watched Ring of Honor, from childhood. It's a great time. Go check it out. And any final thoughts?
Book the women's divisions better. That's my final thoughts. And everybody, I hope you have a wonderful WrestleMania Sunday, because that will be taking off soon.
Yes. And we'll see you guys next week. I'll be here next week.
I will be too. So you can count on both of us to be here at least.
Okay. Okay. Bye, guys.